work, one whole day to play. Come on, everybody, wear your roller skates today. It's Saturday, 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 it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, yeah. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Career Exploration Saturday. I'm your host, Ebony Tyler. I have real conversations with real people about real jobs. So this week, I want to give a big shout out to Kappa League parent Joy. So I hit up the group chat and was like, listen, I need some help, with getting people to come on and share their career story. And Joy was like, oh, I know a law librarian. So I was like, all right, make the intro. So she makes the intro and Kim is on it, like sends her bio, picked the time, was ready. And when I got her bio, I was like, oh, wait, is she a lawyer? Law librarian? Must be a lawyer. Did my Googles, come to find out, not a lawyer, but doing some amazing work. And you really, really, really want to listen to the entire conversation to hear what she's doing for us, for the community. All right, so who's Kim? So Kim has a Bachelor's of Arts degree from North Carolina Central University, which is an HBCU, and she has a Master's of Science in Library Science from Pratt Institute. She works as the Senior Reference Librarian at Sullivan and Cromwell, LLP. She has served as the President of the Law Library Association of Greater New York. She is also a member of the American Association of Law Librarians and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and was appointed to the HBCU International Task Force by the International President of Alpha Kappa Alpha. Now, Kim Council, she's also a reverend, and she obtained her license in 2003 and was ordained in 2006 at Berean Baptist Church under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Arlie Griffin Jr. Reverend Council is very active in her church and the professional community. She serves as the executive director of the Berean Community and Family Life Center and teaches at Berean Bible Institute. Reverend Council sits on the executive board of Women of Faith Advocating Change, a partnership of female pastors, clergy leaders, community service providers, and elected officials. And she is the vice chair of the board of directors of the Local Development Corporation of East New York and serves as the president of the East Brooklyn Housing Development Corporation. Kim resides in Cypress Hills with her son, and most importantly, Reverend Kim loves the Lord and is committed to serving the people of God for the rest of her life. Listen, we had a wonderful conversation, and I was very inspired by her. All right, again, stick around to the end because you really want to know what she's up to, and we really need to get behind her and support her. All right, let's jump right in. So welcome, Kim. Welcome, Kim Council, to Career Exploration Saturday. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Ebony? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm doing really well today. So I like to start all of the conversations by, tell us who Kim was at 16. Did you have it all together? Did you know what you wanted to be? Just to get a little background.
Kim at 16, good Lord. Kim didn't know nothing, but she thought she knew everything.
Okay.
16 was it was a fun year. High school was good. My socialization was good. I had a good time. I went to a Catholic high school in Brooklyn, Bishop Loughlin. And so I was very involved in extracurricular activities. very involved in my local church, sang in the choir. So 16 was a good year, but no, I had no idea. I had a career path in mind. I thought that I was going to be a lawyer. So the plan was to, go to undergrad and then go to law school and then, become I think I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney. So that was what 16-year-old Kim had in mind. But what the reality is and what happened are two totally different things.
So when I got your bio and I saw that you were a law librarian, I immediately thought that you were a lawyer. But then I started doing some Googles.
I am not. I do not have a JD. I've been researching the law at the law firm for 22 years. And I did major in political science as an undergrad, but no, I do not have a JD, and it's not a requirement for my job, although I do have to have a master's degree. So I have a master's degree in library and information science, well, library science from Pratt Institute, which I got when I graduated from college. So I went to an HBCU, which was in North Carolina Central University, majored in political science, graduated, and was originally going to go to law school, but then I developed a love for history and thought maybe I would go to get a master's in history and become a history professor. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to go to Howard, and I didn't get into Howard, and I was very disappointed. So I came back home and got a job at a management consulting firm, McKinsey & Company. And McKinsey & Company, I was working as an information assistant in their information department, information resource center. And they had tuition reimbursement policy. And so they would pay for your tuition 100% if it was work related. So I was looking around at these, professionals. And as a matter of fact, the library stuff, we had generalists, and then you had specialists. So you had people who, were general reference, and then you had people who specialized in banking, computer science, consumer marketing, business management. So you had all these different areas of specialty. And there was one African-American woman, her name was Mel. But there were a lot of women who were in this profession, very few men. And I thought, wow, I can do this. This is not hard. And it was a concept that I hadn't thought about. When I thought about librarianship, you think about, someone who works in a specialized library, an academic library, who then has to get that secondary degree so that they can get on tenure track and they can teach. But this was an opportunity that I had not even, it wasn't even something that I had been exposed to, specialized librarianship. So I went to Pratt Institute in the evening, part-time, and got my master's degree. And then while I was at McKinsey & Company, they began a cost-effective initiative. And in corporate speak, that means they were laying people off. Mm-hmm. And they were looking at middle management. So around that time, I was in a protected status, a protected class, because I was pregnant with my first child. But the culture at the company began to change. So I prayed and came back to work, and talked to my supervisor and the people that I worked with, and they advised me that perhaps I should get my resume together and start looking. So I contacted a headhunter. I gave her my resume, and she called me back and asked me how did I feel about law firms. And law firms at the time, I didn't know a lot about law firms, but they had a bad reputation, for lawyers being a little bit ridiculous. But I was like, what, I'll be open to it. And I interviewed. I went on actually one interview, and that was at Sullivan and Cromwell. And I went on the interview. I spoke to the then director of the library, and she called me back for a second interview. And again, I was very transparent with the people that I was working for, because it wasn't a situation where I was leaving because I was, under duress, or it wasn't a good situation, but it was that the corporate culture had begun to change. So my supervisors knew what was going on, and they were my references. And I got a call back within about a week and a half, and they offered me the job. And so I got a nice salary increase, but I was also, at the time, I hadn't finished the master's. So I was a reference assistant. I was still working on the master's, and Sullivan had tuition reimbursement as well. So I was able to transfer, go to Sullivan and Cromwell, and that's where I finished up the degree. And when I finished the degree, submitted my transcript to the director, and they submitted it to the library committee, which was partners and other associates, and I got promoted. So I've been a reference librarian at Sullivan and Cromwell for 22 years.
Wow. So I want to back up to your time at North Carolina Central University, which is a HBCU. So you said you majored in political science.
Yes.
Now, can you just tell us a little bit about what's political science? Why did you have an interest in political science? You mentioned that you were interested in history as well.
The interesting thing is that I wanted to go to law school. And it was all, again, I didn't have people who were sitting me down and talking to me about this is the path that you need to follow or what you need to do. I was not necessarily interested in politics, but my understanding was if you major in political science, then the next step is law school. That was the next logical step. And maybe it was because of television or whatever. But I was interested in philosophy and politics and government. So I majored in political science with the knowledge that I wanted to go to law school. But I took a couple of intro to criminal justice and constitutional law. And it didn't seem like it was something that I necessarily wanted to do. I think I was conflicted with what I was morally obligated to do and what I was legally obligated to do. And it was just, I was young and immature, and I didn't have the right types of advisors and mentors. So one of the things that I would, advise young people, if you're interested in a field, you definitely need to talk to people who are doing what you want to do so that you can kind of understand what their career path is. So that's why this is one of them. So I majored in political science, thought about minoring in history because I took so many history classes, but then after a while, money became an issue, and I was like, I'm not paying for another year of college. I need to graduate. So I graduated and moved on, and then I came to New York. But that was, the poli-sci was because, but it was a very, it was foreshadowing for what I'm actually doing in this current phase of life. It actually panned out perfectly.
Okay, so we're gonna put a pin in that because we definitely going to get to that. But can you just tell us a little bit about, like, what is the day-to-day like for a law librarian who works at a law firm? Are you pulling briefs? What exactly are you doing? And I'm just saying that because I was just watching a show about lawyers the other day. I have no idea.
Working, it depends on the type of firm and what type of law they practice. And it also depends on how they have things structured. But so, and law librarianship is a very small niche. I think in New York City, there's a Law Library Association of Greater New York. That's the other thing that I would always also advise. If you're interested in a career, they should have some type of an association. And the association will have student members so that you can, again, join and talk to people who are in that, in that organization. So there's the Law Library Association of Greater New York, and they are a local chapter of the American Association of Law Librarians. So back to what a law librarian actually does. It varies. It varies from the type of firm that you're at. Like, because if you're at a firm that they practice a specific type of law, they're a boutique firm, then you're only going to do a specific type of research. But at the firm that I am at, they do everything. So we have litigation, we have tax, we have trust and estates, we have banking, bankruptcy, we do mergers and acquisitions, tax. So there's, so there's a whole bunch of transactions, which, like deals and things that they do. We also serve as counsel to underwriters for IPOs, which is initial public offerings. So the day can be as varied as, and so ultimately it's a model of service. So we're providing a service to our clients, and our clients just happen to be the lawyers at the firm. So we get requests, and the requests come in via email, via telephone, or in person. Of course, this is pre-COVID. Mm-hmm. So people will contact us, and they'll give us the information, and we'll do what's considered a reference interview. And in the reference interview, you're trying to figure out what the person wants and ask the questions that they may not be used to asking that will help you and help guide your research. And so the practice or the industry of librarianship has changed drastically over the 22 years. It is largely done online. And a lot of, we still use books, but the bulk of what we do, because books are now electronic, they're ebooks. So people can literally check a book off the shelf virtually. And there are companies that we use like Lexis and Westlaw and High and Online that spent inordinate amounts of money, scanning and copying or reproducing the materials that would be in a physical book in an online format, so that it is, palatable or usable, accessible for the end user. So we could do something as varied as pulling cases. Mm-hmm. Searching for precedents, which is an example of something that the lawyer is looking for. And the precedents could be briefs, it could be cases, or it could be transactions. Meaning, like, there's a merger that they're working on, and they want the merger structured in a specific way. They want the target company to have a certain amount, like a $1 billion market cap. They want them to be in a specific industry. They're looking for certain provisions within the contract. So it becomes very, very, very complex. Or it could be, we have pro bono cases. There could be times when we're doing background checks on individuals. We're trying to find out information about them, where they're from, what they've done, what their history is. And so there's databases that would give us access to that type of information, or we could be simply doing, looking for information on a company. So it varies. It really varies depending on the firm.
So it's a lot of research, because you said research several times. It's a lot of research. So you're not like in the stacks pulling books.
No.
Okay.
I'm on a computer, and I mean, like, I'm on a computer all day long.
Okay.
And so it entails, you have to have a knowledge of databases, how they work, what type of search syntax you need to use, what are the, like, do they have Boolean connectors? Is it natural language search? How far back the information goes on the database. The other thing that I always want to, people like, oh, just Google it. No, you have to be able to verify sources. You want documents that are annotated. That means they've quoted from other reputable sources. You don't want to use something like a Wikipedia that anybody can edit. So as an information professional, you are validating that the information that you're presenting to your client is, it's valid. It's something that is peer reviewed, and it is solid information, and it's not something that can be tampered with.
So I want to repeat what you said, because I really want the audience to pay attention. A law librarian, a librarian is an information professional.
Yes, we are information professionals. Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, let's fast forward. Tell us what you're doing right now, because it's exciting stuff.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I'm running for city council.
Which city?
Brooklyn, running for city council in Brooklyn, New York, in the 37th Council District, hoping to represent the communities of Bushwick, Cypress Hills, East New York, Ocean Hill, Brownsville, City Line, and a slither of Bed-Stuy. So I ran in 2013, came in second place. I ran in 2014 for Assembly, came in second place. And so now we're doing that council for council all over again. So we're gearing up. 2021 is right around the corner.
So did something happen? Was there an incident? Was there a moment? Like, what inspired you to want to get into New York City politics? Because
it wasn't in the plan. It wasn't something that I planned to do. I've been working with State Senator Belmonette Montgomery. I met her on the street. Like, she was putting up posters when she was running for office, and we struck up a conversation. I was a youth minister at my church, Berean Baptist Church. And I knew that, some of the committees she sat on, and she did a lot of stuff around, youth and youth development. So I started talking to her about some of the stuff that we were trying to do. And she said, I want to get on your calendar. And I was like, she's not serious. But she really was. And so she had a lot of youth initiatives. We were trying to reform the juvenile justice system. She was bringing together community-based organizations and clergy and leaders all over the city to have a conversation about what juvenile justice looked like, what services to youth looked like. She wanted to set up, programs. She wanted to set up programs at that point to give real scholarships to our kids, and not just $1,000 here, but to have everybody come together and create this pool of funds and funding that so I was working with her on several of those initiatives. And through working with her, I started meeting other elected officials, and I met Congresswoman Yvette Clarke and her mom, Dr. Una Clarke, who is a living legend. And they had these annual prayer breakfasts. And so I went to Congresswoman Clarke's, I think it was the first prayer breakfast, or maybe one of the later prayer breakfasts that she had. And I was talking to someone about what I was doing with Senator Montgomery, and the woman was like, well, who are you? And I was like, I'm nobody. Like, I'm just Kim. And she was like, no, you don't talk like you're anybody. And at that time, Senator Montgomery asked me, she was like, well, what are you going to do with all of this information that you're gathering and the relationship that you're building? And I hadn't thought about it. And so when I left the prayer breakfast after having that conversation with the lady, me being a person of prayer, I talked to God about it. I had a prayer, I prayed, and I talked to him, and he was like, I released you to do this. And so then when that happened, it was like, okay, well, what am I going to run for? And what is that position? Like, what is so you have to, begin to understand civics and know what the city council person can and cannot do. What falls under the city, what falls under state, what falls under federal purview, and make sure that you're, aware of, what that entails, and also understanding the process, because New York politics is a beast. So understanding, how do you get on the ballot? What is ballot? success look like in the city of New York? So I started as a librarian gathering all this information to understand, how to petition and how to gather signatures and what to do. And, and then, that fundraising is a major part of running for office. And and you turn into someone who, no, you leave no dollar on the table. You have to, pull all your lists. So that it worked out that, I was a part of several organizations and associations, and I had all of these different, people in my life that I could then pull to, alumni from my college, alumni from my high school, sorority sisters, people from the church, and people who were already in politics who kind of understood what was going on. So fundraising is key, understanding the process is key, and building relationships, because who's going to validate you and say that you're qualified to run for this position? Because a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to get into politics, but who do you know? Who do you know in the community? Who do you know in politics? Who do you know that can say, we tested Kim and we know who she is, we know what she's about, we know her character. So there's a whole bunch of different things that go into making that decision to run. So stop me, because Reverend Kim could talk for a long time.
So I want to just make a couple of connections. Several times you've mentioned women and Black women who have helped you or who have inspired you. And then you mentioned your sorority. Do you want to talk a little bit about what your sorority is doing to make an impact or to make some type of societal change to help young people?
Oh, definitely. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. It is a African American sorority. Is one of, they're part of a group that's called the Divine Nine within the Pan-Hellenic Council. And so there's Alpha Kappa Alpha, there's Delta Sigma Theta, there's Sigma Gamma Rho, and there's Zeta Phi Beta. Those are the sororities, the Black Greek lettered sororities. So my organization just happens to be the first and finest, founded in 1908 at Howard University. So there are a lot of things that we do, that the organization does. Right now we have several targets that we're pushing and initiatives. Each, our international president comes in with her agenda, and then we kind of work within that agenda. So one of the targets that is near and dear to my heart, and I just happen to sit on the HBCU International Task Force appointed by our international president, is raising money for HBCUs. So we have made it a priority to raise funds specifically for historically Black colleges and universities. So we do give out money, just in general. The sorority, the national organization, has an EAF fund, which is a education advancement fund where they give out scholarships for anyone going to college. And my chapter, I belong to a local chapter in Brooklyn, which is Psi Lambda Omega. There's two chapters in Brooklyn. There's Delta Rho Omega, which is the older, larger, the woman that wrote the national hymn, came out of that chapter. And then there's Delta Psi Lambda Omega, which is the younger, active, spunky chapter. And so I'm a part of Psi Lambda Omega. So we actually have 3 scholarships that we give out. 2 that we give every other year, and 1 that we give in partnership with all of the sororities within our cluster, which is a music. It's for the arts. It's the Marjorie Jackson, J. Marjorie Jackson Scholarship. So we give out those types of things. And back to the HBCU Task Force. I'm sorry, I can go. So the HBCU Task Force, our president, our international president, is the president of Tennessee State University. She's one of the few women, Black women, who has she's a CPA, and she's got a JD, and she's got like so many degrees. She's just so.
Smart. Black women are just degreed up.
She's a JD, CPA, PhD. She's got like so many, she's in a class really almost literally by herself. Wow. But she saw how difficult and how challenging it was, number one, to get funds and funding for HBCUs, how difficult it was for them to get funds, and how difficult it was for students to get funding to go to these institutions. So she, one of her targets was, to create an HBCU endowment fund. So our organization has taken on the task of raising $10 million over the course of 4 years. We're 2 years in, to give $50,000 endowments to every single HBCU. So we've so far given out 32 HBCUs, we've given them $50,000 endowments. Now, the endowment is money that they put into a special account that draws an interest drawing account, and they don't draw down from the principal, they draw down from the interest, and that interest is what they use to provide scholarships to their students.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
So we're raising money to help the HBCUs to create these endowments. And this is the thing, this is why PWIs are able to give their students so much money, because when people die, they leave money, they leave assets, they leave tangible things to the university, and even while they're living, they make these gifts. But of course, we're in a different socioeconomic status, so we have to begin to think outside of the box. So our international president, Sarah Glover, has us working to raise money. So we have Impact Day every year in September for the past 2 years. This will be our third year. We ask members of the organization to give at least $35 each, and we ask chapters, depending on their size, to give money based on the size that they are. And then we ask sorors if they could, if they have a job that will give matching funds, if they would, work that program out. So we have raised for the past 2.5 years $1.5 million in one day towards these endowment funds. And then at the regional functions, when we have our regional gatherings, we've done additional fundraising. And then we have people who are over each region. So I'm over the North Atlantic region, and then we have people in, all over the United States, all over the world, as a matter of fact, because our organization is global, working on projects to raise money specifically for HBCUs. And so we're looking for corporate partnerships. We're looking for all types of things so that we can make HBCUs affordable for all of us.
So you're pulling on all of your relationships. You got your relationships that you're pulling on because you're running for city council, and you're using all of that knowledge and all that information from being a law librarian, and then all of your resources to raise money for HBCUs through your sorority. You are really busy, Miss.
It's interesting because the woman that was the international president as I was graduating from college, her name was Eva. Oh God. I saw Eva Evans, and she just died. Like, her funeral, I think, was either today or yesterday. And her international, like, every year, every 4 years, the president comes up with a different theme. So this year is, it's strategies of excellence. It's like, working towards achieving excellence. But under, Eva, when I was graduating from college, the theme was making the net work. So it was like having us to rethink how we network. And that's one of the things, it's like guys have a certain way that they network. They don't just socialize, they're making deals, they're on the golf course, they're socializing and they're athleticizing, but they're also talking business. We have a tendency, when we socialize, but it's rethinking how you connect the dots with the people that you know. I firmly believe that we have all of the resources that we need within our circles, particularly if we have learned to identify, the character, the competency, the cadence, and the competence of those people who are around us, the capacity. But you have what you need. You just have to figure out how to tap into those resources. How do I build a relationship, with if I want to be a law librarian, are there associations? Do I know people who are librarians? What do I know about the process? If I'm interested in becoming a lawyer, or if I'm interested in becoming a politician, what politicians do I know that could talk to me about the day-to-day, what the expectation is, and how I move from having it be a dream to working on making it a reality? So these types of things are very important. You want to have a certain amount of people who have competence, great character, capacity, and can keep your cadence in your circle.
You know what? I usually ask, like, what advice do you have? But you gave it already.
My bad.
No, this is great. This is great. So I want to give you some space to maybe talk a little bit about your faith. I know you said you reached and you talked to God, and he released you to be able to go and run for city council. Have you always had like such a strong faith, and has it always been with you through your career?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I mean, my mom raised us in the church. I'm not gonna act like I always, when I went to college, I had a good time.
You did go to HBCU, North Carolina.
I did. Oh my God. Homecoming alone is like the best selling point for HBCU.
It really is.
At any place else does not compare to homecoming. homecoming at a HBCU. So Kim Council had a very good time in college, especially at NCCU. But faith was always a strong part of who I was. I mean, you know, we went to church every Sunday. I sang in the choir, as I said. Used to do duets with the minister of music, taught Sunday school. Did not seek ministry as a path, but my grandfather was a bishop. My mother became a licensed and ordained minister. And so it just kind of, I don't know, I think it chose me more so than anything else. But, you know, that my faith is the thing that has sustained me when chaos is encircling me, when all kinds of things are happening, when people are talking about you, or people don't necessarily support what it is that you want to do, when I'm not sure of which direction to go. I can pull back, I can calm myself down, I can study the word, I can pray and have a conversation with God. And his response may not always be audible. It might be in, you know, a conversation with someone else, or it might be in pointing me in a direction of people that can help make what I'm dreaming about become reality. Or it might just be, you know, something that I see as I'm walking down the street. So he confirms his word and his positions in so many different ways. We just sometimes are so busy and so rushed doing so many different things that we have not quieted ourselves enough to hear what it is that we need to do. Because I believe, just like I believe that everything that you need is around you, that you can tap into, I also believe that, you know, we have what we need on the inside of us, but we just need to figure out how we can, you know, quiet ourselves and calm ourselves so that we can begin to hear, you know, what it is that we need to do and what it is that resonates with us on the inside. Because all of the stuff that I'm doing, and I've run a nonprofit, working at a law, and I've done things simultaneously, working at the law firm, running a nonprofit, running for office, raising kids, you know, ministering. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I enjoy doing everything that I'm doing. But also there's a service component that seems to be the scarlet thread, that there's a component of giving back. Yeah. And, you know, which again is something that was instilled in me, and I didn't realize it at the time, but from junior high school to college, you know, to church, my faith, it's all about, you know, you get to a certain point, you're given certain tools and you're given certain advantages in life, then it's your responsibility to give. And in giving, you receive so much in exchange.
You know what, Kim Council? This was really good. This is really great. I mean, okay, how can we support Council for Council?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I have a website, councilforcouncil.com, and it's COUNCILFOR or the number 4 council.com. I have a Facebook page, which is Kim Council for City Council 2020, Twitter, Instagram, and all of those social medias, those points of access will have donate buttons if people want to donate, make a contribution, because believe it or not, you know, even in, you know, the coronavirus, we need resources in order to be able to do what we need to do. And I'm not asking for big money because I know what's going on. So, I mean, something as small as $5, $10, it goes a long way, because the city has what's called matching funds, and funds are matched 8 to 1. So a $10 contribution turns into a $90 contribution because of the city's matching funds program. But you can go onto any of those mediums and click on the donate button, or if you want to volunteer your time, because we need people to make phone calls and reach out to constituents, or if you just want to, you know, get together and have a conversation and know, you know, what my platform is, because it's like, I'm running for city council. What's the platform? What do you want to do?
Go ahead, share, please.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I think, right, it's interesting because, you know, where we were in January is not necessarily where we are right now because of what's been going on with the coronavirus. So, you know, my original platform, or my underlying platform is housing, affordable housing, which is something that is a right and not a luxury, which is something that it seems to be, you know, escaping all of us, that, you know, it's becoming less and less affordable to live in the city of New York. So, you know, I believe that we've got to create more affordable housing. We've got to preserve the existing units of affordable housing. And we've got to be creative in the way that we do those kinds of things. And we've got to figure out a way, particularly with what's going on right now with the pandemic, with all of these people who are unemployed, all of these people who may have had a decrease in income and maybe struggling to pay their rent and to put food on the table. We've got to figure out how we can make sure that these people are not evicted, and not hit with these balloon rent payments at the ending of the season. Education is something that is also very important. As you know, I've gone on to get my master's degree as well as my undergraduate degree. So education is key, and we need to make sure that New York City is getting its fair share of dollars. There are millions of dollars that are owed to Department of Education schools from the state of New York, and there are resources that we need to figure out how to get into our kids. And we need to rethink education, because everybody's not going to go to college. So how can we begin to create partnerships with unions and trades and other industries so that our kids graduate with that, and if they're not interested in going to college, they do have a marketable skill that they can then provide for themselves. So we need to figure out how we revamp our educational process. We need to also make sure there was legislation that was passed. I want to say it was like 2012, years ago, to create an Amistad Commission for the state of New York to evaluate the curriculum and to come up with a curriculum that will positively show and make it mandatory that African Americans and minorities' positive contributions to society was put into the curriculum. So that commission was created, and the legislation was passed, and I think that commission met once, if at all, and hasn't met since. Wow. So we need to make sure that we're not just creating legislation and not doing anything with it. And the interesting thing, and this is a sidebar, the interesting thing about the Amistad Commission, it wasn't something that was a new concept, and I'm talking 2012 and earlier. That this, I think, was Bill Perkins, I think that introduced this legislation. Yeah. But there were other states that had similar legislation and had already created the curriculum. Wow. So we don't even have to recreate the curriculum. I think New Jersey, Illinois, Florida, and New Jersey's curriculum was online and accessible. So the curriculum exists, the books exist, those types of things already exist, so that we can begin to show the positive contributions that Black and brown people have made in the United States. So we need to revamp our educational system. We need to make sure that we're protecting our seniors. They've lived here, they've made our community sustainable. So we need to make sure that they have the resources and they're allocated the resources and the funding that they need to remain in the communities that they've helped to build. We need jobs. God, we need jobs, but we need jobs that pay a sustainable wage. Right. So the cost of living, the minimum wage, which is like, I think it's $10 or more, and it's 15, going up to like $15 an hour. That simply moves people from one level of poverty to another. If I'm making $15 an hour, maybe I'm making about $18,500 a year. That's not enough to sustain me in the city of New York.
You can't even get a 1-bedroom with that.
No, you can't.
You cannot.
So we need to create jobs that have sustainable wages so that people can take care of themselves, because what we saw, and we saw this during Hurricane Sandy, the data bears it out. When you pay people what their sustainable wage, crime decreases. So right now we have this surge of violence happening in our communities. We had 2 kids that were shot on Sunday over here in Cypress Hills, and then they had a memorial last night, and someone else was shot. So our kids are just running amok, and we understand that this is where we've been quarantining for so long, and people have lost their jobs, and money has been cut from social service programs. So people are angry, and there's a lot of stuff that's going on, but that's no excuse for this type of violence. So we have to figure out how we can invest and reinvest in our kids and reinvest in our communities, pay people a sustainable wage so that that is a deterrence to a life of crime. And we have to reform our criminal justice system. We have to right the wrongs that have been so long going on. There's a lot that needs to be done. I'm sorry. Like I said, I could talk forever.
Listen. This was absolutely great, and we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Kim Council for Council, and we'll definitely put up your website in the notes when we post this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do. Let me know what you're doing so I can promote you as well. I think what you're doing is outstanding.
Well, Kim is out here working, and what I truly love is that she calls it service. It's not work, it's service. And I'm not very religious, but I do feel that there was some type of level of service ingrained into me through my HBCU experience. And you're thinking about all these conversations that I'm having with folks week after week. There really seems to be a theme And the theme that keeps running through them is networking, building relationships, and joining professional organizations. Like the last three conversations really centered around those three things. Those points really stood out for me. But, Kim, she really dissected it, about building relationships. And what she said is that we have everything that we need in our circles and that we just need to tap into it, right? And that we need to rethink how we connect the dots with the people that we know by identifying their competence and their resources. And let me tell you, that was a word. Like that really, really is really sticking with me. So thank you, Kim, for sharing your story. I totally appreciate you. And people, let's support Kim in her run for New York City Council. Go to her website, Council for Council, and make a donation. Big or small, it counts. Okay, I just made my donation, so I know you can make your donation too. And listen, while you're out here in the gift-giving mood, don't forget to hit Liberated Success GoFundMe. All right. Again, can't get this work done without our community. So you know where it's at. It's a link on my Facebook page. It's the first comment is the link. It's a pin tweet on Twitter. And it's in my DMs. In my bio on Instagram. Now, don't forget, I also need your help for liberated problem solvers, right? Kim said that she didn't really have a mentor or someone to guide her in her career decision-making process. And you can be that person to help our young people in their career exploration journey. Liberated Problem Solvers is a program that I'm putting together that's going to run in the fall for recent high school graduates. And I need you to present the problem so that we can work with your organization and you can mentor, right? It's 5 weeks virtual experience, 1 hour a week. Come on, give the kids feedback on what they are working on. Okay, your organization is going to get a finished product. You can use it, you cannot use it. You can, try to improve or make some system changes at your organization based on, what these Gen Zers bring to the table. I got my own little problem solvers, and sometimes I'm stuck, and I'm like, well, what do you think about this? Because, I'm in my 40-something-year-old head, but sometimes you need a team. You need someone in their early 20s who looks at it, and they look at the world in a different way. And I really want you to be a part of this. I'm kind of like stuck in this friends and family phase. And to break out of it, we need to show impact. So I need you, my friends, my family, to work with me. It's not just through donations. I know it's time, it's energy. I keep asking. But, like Kim said, everything I need is in my circle, right? I just got to connect the dots for the resources. And you guys are my resource. All right. So, people, we can't get COVID fatigue, okay? Listen, I stay with my mask, right? Like, I stay with my mask, okay? Because I've been on planes, okay? I was down in Georgia, I'm back in New Jersey, and I'm here at my mom's house. My mom is up in her 70s. I'm here with my grandfather. He tells us he's 98, but homeboy probably like 100, okay? So I wear my mask to protect them from me because I've been on planes. I'm out, okay? And that's really what we got to do. Like, we got to save ourselves. And how we save ourselves is stay masked up, wash your hands, socially distance, and all Black Lives Matter. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye. One whole day to play. Come on, everybody.